K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those who undertake. Attorney General's lying even while
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Well, happy Friday, folks. It is Friday evening. It is June the 5th, 2015, and just a few minutes after 6 p.m. right here in beautiful downtown Oklahoma City. Just want to give a quick shout out to Rod Eccles for having me on with him this morning on his new venture, a new show called The Liberty Cafe. We hung out for the whole hour. As soon as links become available, I'll definitely put them out through social media so you guys can check it out. We also have most of the show as a recording here, so we may actually put it up at some point over the weekend as well. So again, big shout out to Rod Eccles. Thank you for having me on with you today. It was a blast. Look forward to hopefully maybe doing that again. It's an interesting thing to go be on other folks' shows, because there's one thing when you're the guy behind the microphone and you're the one that's in control. It's a lot different when you're being interviewed by someone else. I have to admit, he made it it was really fun, and it was about like hanging out with an old friend. So it was pretty entertaining. There's some really exciting news for him when it comes to that particular show. He's got some great guests lined up. So if you have a chance, you might want to check it out. And we may or may not have an announcement about that show here in the next few days, but I don't want to spoil any potential surprises. Now, that basically sums up the good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody? Do hope for those of you who had just got home from the day job that the day job treated you well enough. It is officially now Friday, so for those of you who are like me that work Monday through Friday, your weekend is here. Sadly for me, the radio gig pretty much never stops. We will have a replay of the Bryce Robbins show going for the next couple of weeks, Opinion Nation. Bryce is currently in the process of doing some testing, so he will not be available for the next couple of weeks. Steve Long, host of Liberty Unfiltered, who is currently on hiatus because he's been doing a music show over on our sister station K98X, has agreed to sit in with me tomorrow. So while the liberal is away, the conservatives shall play. Mwahaha. But in fairness, I did reach out to Dave, who was on vacation, but he's not back from Florida yet. So, hey, you can't blame a guy. I tried, So it'll be a little bit of a different show tomorrow because, I'm libertarian, small L. Steve, libertarian, ginormous, capital L, bolds and italics. Pretty close to anarchists. And we may actually talk about that some tomorrow. But yeah, he'll be with me tomorrow from 9 to 10 right here on K98 Talk on Finding Common Ground. So, lots of stuff to talk about today. Lots of things in the news that are irritating the crap out of me, as usual. So I figure they're probably irritating the crap out of you too. So I figure we might as well talk about them. What do you say? So, one of the first things I noticed when I got up this morning, because, it was a leisurely day for me. I took the day off from the day job to prep for the interview and do some other things that I needed to get done around here. So I open up social media, and I'm like, hey, maybe I'll find some cool things that Rod and I can talk about. And the first thing I see, you guessed it, Westboro Baptist Church is rearing their ugly head again. We have a clip we'll play here just a little bit about them, but I just want to talk about them for a second, because here's my thing. Those of you who've listened to me before, I used to be a lay pastor at a Pentecostal church, Pentecostal church. For those of you who are wondering what that is basically someone who helped out, did sermons, those type of things, but was never actually officially ordained by the church. Now, that being said, before I started dipping my toe in Pentecostal waters, I was a First Southern Baptist. I am now, again, a Baptist. So let me just tell you, from my personal perspective, I really wish that whoever is in charge of deciding who or what can be a Baptist would get a hold of the Westboro folks and just strip them of being able to use that designation. Because as a Christian, those folks abhor me. Literally. Even talking about them right now, my skin is starting to crawl. And I'll explain. I'll let them hear. I'll let you hear some of in his own words. I actually put together a little bit of a montage that we'll be playing here in a little bit from the guy that was the leader of the Westboro Baptist Church. I think he actually might have passed away not too long ago, if memory serves. But who knows? What I do know is that anybody that sits in that church, I would call them about as much a Christian as I would that anybody that sits in Jeremiah Wright's church. But that's kind of what today's show is about. It's about the extremes. We talked about some of the extremes yesterday because I had to talk about the Jenner formerly known as Bruce, and actually that came up today with Rod as well. And we both gave our opinions on it. And just in case you missed yesterday's show, I will say pretty much what I said yesterday. The fact that Bruce Jenner decided that he should have been born a woman does not affect me. It does not impact me. It doesn't change anything for me. So if he wants to put on a dress and wear makeup and have plastic surgery, that is entirely up to him. Again, it does not affect me, does not impact me. I will even be so kind as to start calling him Caitlyn, and from this point forward refer to him as her, if that is what she truly wants. But here's my thing with all of that. I think we are probably going to find out before too much longer that this was some sort of a publicity stunt. Because here's the thing. Caitlyn has never mentioned any attraction to men. She's been married. She's had children, fathered children, which is a really weird sentence to put together, folks. I just said she fathered children. This is the world where we live in now, just in case anybody was wondering. But so now all of a sudden she's like, okay, well, I feel like I should have been a woman this entire time. So, are you attracted to men? Because at least that would make sense, but she's never said anything specifically about being attracted to men. Seems to still have a rather healthy attraction for women. Equipment seemed to work well enough to be able to father children. See, this is the thing that I guess I don't understand, because this may get graphic for a second, but the idea of being with a man makes my skin crawl. I don't think if somebody that women thought was the most sexy, hottest guy on the planet came up and started rubbing against me, that anything would work, because I would just be repulsed and appalled. So here's the thing that I don't understand. For gay guys, do you know how many gay guys I know that have fathered children before they realized that they prefer to be with guys? This is why I never really can wrap my head around the idea that it's not a choice. And I don't even mind if it is a choice. If you're choosing, because maybe you've done both and you like one over the other. Hey, that's great, whatever. But obviously, you had to have been attracted to the woman at some point because the equipment worked well enough to father a child. It doesn't work really well if you're not excited. But back to Caitlyn. So never once has anybody ever heard her say that she was attracted to men. So I'm beginning to wonder how much of this was a publicity stunt. Only time will tell, but I do find it interesting that I am starting to see announcements about possible book deals in the works. So I guess only time will tell whether she actually finishes the rest of the gender reassignment surgery, because as far as I know, up until now, she's had plastic surgery to add breasts. But as far as I understand, she still has the equipment downstairs. So, again, kind of what I said yesterday. Seems like she's not that committed. Or maybe she's just giving it some more time to think. But then again, if you were pretty sure that you were always supposed to be a woman, why not finish the job? Okay, so I think I've talked about that enough, honestly, because as you can hear, I keep having to pause, and it's because literally, I don't feel very well talking about this. I'm not trying to be crude, not trying to be crass, but again, it literally does upset my stomach to think about these type of things, because it's not what floats my boat. So, other things in the news. Oh yeah, back to the Westboro guys, because we still never really got anything to do with them or got out of the way with it yet. But the thing about that is, and the reason it all ties together is, again, we're talking about extremes. So we're looking at three very different cases here as far as extremes. We have Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, we have Westboro Baptist, and yes, we are finally going to have to talk a little bit about the Duggars. And sorry, I really don't like talking about it, but this has to be done, because some of the things that I'm hearing and I've seen in print, they disturb the hell out of me. So, have a little bit about that. We have a little bit about the Westboro guys, and then during the last half of the show, we will actually be talking about slightly better news, a little bit more, well, kind of, sort of. We'll kind of compare and contrast the speech that we talked about yesterday a little bit with another speech that I just heard bits and pieces of that I'll actually be playing as well. So, lots still going on. We're going to go ahead and take our break at the quarter of the hour that we normally take, just a couple minutes early. So that way we can come back and actually get into the meat of everything here. So, all right, folks, we are already about 15 minutes into the show. We'll be right back here in just a couple minutes. Gotta take a commercial break, pay some bills, all that fun stuff. We'll be right back. This is America Off the Rails. I'm Rick Robinson, and it's Friday. Don't forget.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all! What is it good for? Absolutely! Let's get started again. A show that will change internet radio as you know it.
Okay, so let's talk about the story, which I think is hilarious. I'm just going to refer to it as the poop plane, because, like, what else are you going to call it? But there was this plane, okay? It took off. It's the British Airways. They were going to Dubai, Dubois. I have a hard time pronouncing that one.
It was British
anyway,
Airways. It wasn't Jet.
British
It
Airways.
wasn't Jet Poo.
It was.
Couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
I like it. This story,
BM
if
Airlines.
we've ever had a story that is up our alley, it's this one. It's bathroom humor up from front to back of the airplane, apparently. They had to turn around to go back to Heathrow because they said the smelly poo in the toilet became unbearable for passengers, and it was so bad. They decided it's so bad that they had to turn around and go back rather than continue their flight. They decided that there wasn't enough Febreze, there wasn't enough anything to handle this.
Maybe they should see a doctor. Is there a GoFundMe for this guy?
It must be a woman, because a woman's going to be mortified and embarrassed. If this is a guy, you know that he's like out there on Twitter and everything else saying, dude, I took down an airplane with how bad that I laid it down.
There was an old
Not
woman
girls,
who
girls.
flew on jet poo. She ate so many burritos she didn't know what to do.
So we turned the plane around because they made a big stink. We've just made it into a haiku at the end, but there had to be something.
Real Serious Nonsense, Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, now on K98 Talk.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause there's no longer free.
All right, folks, we're back. We're live. It's America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. Continuing with the show here at this point, going to get back into what we were going to talk about earlier. And basically, we're going to start off with the Westboro Baptist folks. A little bit about what they're talking about, what they have to say, what their problems are, other than the fact that they're insane. Let's just be completely honest. But I do have a clip that we want to play here. Give me just a second. We'll get that queued up. And here you go.
Here at this church, we regularly hear from good people who agree with our preaching, or at least they say they do, and continually read our sermons, our tweets, our signs, and watch our various video productions. In fact, just earlier this week, while I was standing in front of a Houston megachurch with fellow picketers, a young man approached me, told me he lived just a couple of miles from there, and then explained to me how he daily reads our materials and monitors our website, and that he is in full agreement that today's churches are good for nothing with their God loves everybody lie.
The Westboro Baptist Church has confirmed it will protest outside of the funeral of Beau Biden. Now, they've made a name for themselves over the years for doing just that, protesting at the funerals of deceased soldiers and homosexuals. And their plans for Saturday certainly have people talking.
I think it's absolutely terrible.
I don't think that's wise. I don't think that's fair because he served his country and, he deserves respect. That's what America's based on, the Constitution. And, they're well within their right to do that because it's a part of the democracy.
I think it's absolutely despicable that they're going to try and turn something that should be a private time for the vice president and his friends and family and the state of Delaware in general into some sort of circus.
All right, so let me just be really clear. I am a conservative through and through. Vice President Biden and I disagree on almost every single issue, but we are Americans first. My heart broke the night that I heard the announcement that his son had died. My heart broke for him. My heart broke for us because as a country, we should come together. We should mourn the loss of somebody that is that important to one of our leaders, because we don't know what type of an impact that is going to have on them personally. And for these nozzles, yes, for these nozzles to sit there and say that they're going to protest his funeral, they make me sick. It makes me ashamed to not only call myself a Baptist, but ashamed to call myself a Christian, because I know that they identify themselves as Christians. And I'm sorry, if you identify with the Westboro folks and you're listening to me right now, do the world a favor and turn off your computer, turn off your phone, turn away from TuneIn, turn off iHeart. However you're listening to me, just delete it. I'm not even playing. If you align at all with Westboro Baptist Church, we don't need to communicate anymore. Unfriend me on Facebook. You can unfollow me on Twitter. All of it. Because those people are insane. They are literally insane. To have the gall, the audacity to say that God does not love everyone, you are insane. If God did not love the entire world, which is in the scriptures, by the way. Anybody remember John 3:16? For him to sit there and say that today's churches are not holding up to doctrine because they're telling everyone that God loves everybody. The simple truth is God does love everybody, even this idiot. But what God can't do is abide sin. And if you're doing anything that takes your focus off of him, then you are committing a sin. It really is that simple. Doesn't mean God doesn't love you. That's why Jesus came to earth. Before this sounds too much more like I'm co-opting Richard Harden's show for the night, we're going to go ahead and just say again, as a nation, we should be coming together, not tearing each other apart during a time of what is going to be pretty intense mourning for one of our leaders. I may not like his policies, but he is a man, he is a human being, and he is an American, and I stand with him in this time of loss. And if you can't do that, if you have to take your pot shots, or you have to be like these idiots and you're going to go protest his son's funeral, then we don't need to talk anymore. And again, the fact that Westboro can call themselves Baptists and nobody's done anything about that yet really pisses me off. They shouldn't even be allowed to use the word Baptist. As far as I'm concerned, and this is where the hate mail is going to come in from the uber right. If we are going to consider ISIS, who were basically, admittedly, supposedly a perversion of Islam terrorists, then we need to do the same to Westboro Baptist Church. Because they are committing hate crimes. No, they're not blowing people up, so yes, there is a little bit of a difference, but they are still emotionally causing people terror. Can you imagine how upset the Biden family probably is right now because they know that those idiots are going to be at their son's funeral? That would irk me to no end, because first of all, no father should ever outlive their child. That is the worst possible thing ever, is to be in a situation where you as a father have outlived one of your children. To take that and compound it with the fact that the man lives in a fishbowl and can't do anything without it being put under a microscope, and Lord knows I'm raising my hand right now because I've made fun of him enough. But it's different when it's him. It's crazy Uncle Joe, but now we're talking about his son. His son has died. The family should be allowed to have time to heal. The family should be allowed to have time to mourn. This family should be able to have time to rejoice in the memories that their son has given them. Instead, they're going to get these douchebags. Seriously. They're going to get these douchebags outside of the funeral. So what I'm hoping is here in Oklahoma we have a group that anytime the WBC, sorry, that's what I have to call them, otherwise I want to punch something. Anytime the WBC rolls into town, we have a group that does counter-protests. So what I'm hoping is that there's something like that in the D.C. area so that we can make sure that these idiots don't get anywhere near the Vice President's funeral. Or the Vice President's son's funeral. But the simple fact of the matter is, it disturbs me to no end that these people are allowed to not only call themselves Baptists, but Christians. Because I know Christians, I'm a Christian. And yes, if you're committing a sin, I'm going to tell you, hey, I don't think you should be doing that. But that's all I can really say about it, because there's plenty of things that I do that are considered a sin. That's the part that nobody really takes into account. Doesn't matter in our eyes if it's a tiny sin or if it's a big sin. In God's eyes, they're all the same. So for all of you that are casting aspersions against people that are living in sin or living as homosexuals or whatever else that they're doing, maybe you should take a nice long look in the mirror before you start judging people, because how many things go on in your life that nobody knows about? And that's a great segue to our next topic that we'll be talking about when we come back from the break, which is the Duggar family and the fact that for the longest time they had the entire world snowed, and they had this 15-year TV show, and they had all of these good things, and now they don't. More about that when we come back. Alright, folks, don't forget, still got about half the show left. Don't go anywhere. We'll be talking about the Duggars, Job Numbers, and Rick Perry, all in the next half hour.
Are you conservative in a world of liberal?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not alone. Hey, I'm Daniel Stafford, host of the Stafford Voice, and I'd like to invite you to tune in each Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, where I'll break down the events of the week, and together we'll learn about how they affect you. So, sit back and get ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly of talk radio right here on K98 Talk.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you.
There's a wild, wild whisper blowing in the wind, calling out my name like a long lost friend.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of Liberservative Conservative,
where no one is safe and no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola
round.
radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com. K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com. The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rail. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. We are within the last half hour. So now we get into the secrets that nobody knows. Everybody has them. Not usually as bad as this next group that we're going to listen to, but everybody does have them, which is why when you sit in judgment of others, you should really remember the things that you have done that nobody knows about. Now, that being said, we still have to talk about it, but not because I'm sitting in judgment of anybody, not because I think that anybody's, a terrible person, but because, well, that's not entirely true. Let me back up. The only reason I'm talking about this is because I keep hearing all these disturbing reports about how the family made excuses, and even the father, in several instances, was like, well, it only happened above the clothing. Except for those couple of times that it didn't happen above the clothing. So, we have a little bit of a clip of a recent interview of two of the girls that were on Fox News, and then another news story snippet that I kind of cut together to kind of illustrate just how messed up this entire situation is. So let's give this a listen.
They don't have a right to do this. This isn't... We're victims. They can't do this to us.
And yet they did.
And they did. The system that was set up to protect kids, both those who make stupid mistakes or have problems like this in their life and the ones that are affected by those choices, it's greatly failed.
It's a total of 5 victims, and the ages, if you do the math, the ages range probably between 5 and 12 years old.
In Touch magazine obtained the 2006 police report. The magazine reports that Josh Duggar was investigated for multiple sex offenses, including some that were felonies. In Touch found that Jim Bob Duggar, Josh's father, told police he was made aware of it in 2002. When a girl complained Josh, then 14, had been touching her breasts and genitals while she slept. Instead of alerting authorities, though, the magazine says Jim Bob told police Josh had been disciplined. Then it reportedly happened again in 2003. In a statement released Thursday, Josh Duggar said, 12 years ago, as a young teenager, I acted inexcusably, for which I am extremely sorry and deeply regret. I hurt others, including my family and close friends. What Josh Duggar's statement doesn't say is that his parents didn't tell police about what had happened until 1 year after their son had confessed to them. 1 year. And even then, they reportedly alerted an Arkansas state trooper who was also a family friend. That trooper didn't take any official police action. Instead, the magazine says Trooper Joseph Hutchins gave Josh a very stern talk. Hutchins, by the way, is now serving 56 years in prison for child pornography. Police only started investigating in 2006 after an anonymous letter to the Oprah Winfrey Show, warning producers if the Duggars appear on Oprah, she would be embarrassed. Oprah's team called the child abuse hotline, and police started asking questions. In Touch reports one of the victims told police in 2006 that Josh had told mother and dad what had happened and asked for forgiveness. All of this has fans of the family's hit show reeling. The Duggars are devout Christians. Josh Duggar also worked as the executive director of FRC Action, the lobbying arm of the Family Research Council, a group known for advocating against the rights of the LGBT community. It also has said gays pose a danger to children. Josh also backed his mother's work opposing an ordinance designed to protect transgender people in Arkansas. Michelle Duggard compared transgenders to child predators.
And here her son, most of the family knew what he had done in his past. So yeah, it's hypocrisy.
And that is exactly what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's hypocrisy. Now again, I'm not sitting in judgment of anyone at this point, but I want you to really pay attention to that last little bit. They basically said that homosexuality is bad because it creates a danger for children. Transgenders are bad because they equated them to child predators. While she knowingly, admittedly, had a child predator living in her home. This is how messed up of a society we live in all the way around. Just let this all sink in for a second. Again, kind of some of the few things that we went over a little bit yesterday. Caitlyn Jenner is being recognized and given an award for courage, while a double amputee and a young lady who died while using the last days of her life to play the sport that she loved and so much that she had given, or so much of her life that she had given that sport to, she played it until the day that she died. And a double amputee was running in races with a prosthetic leg. We now live in a world where those two people were overlooked for the ESPY Award for Courage. Where a blatant ratings grab was committed because a 60-some-odd-year-old man who decided to tell the world that he felt like he should have been born a woman had some plastic surgery, put on some makeup, and put on a dress. And something that Rod pointed out this morning that I hadn't even thought about, there are people that are transgendered who live in other countries who literally put their lives on the line for making that choice every time they set foot out of their home. And yet we're going to give this award to Caitlyn Jenner. Two people that honestly deserved the award were passed over to give it to Caitlyn Jenner. And then you have an entire family who rallies around a child molester. I mean, okay. So here's my thing with that, and let's just be completely honest. If you've never, ever played You Show Me Yours and I'll Show You Mine, that's one thing. I think pretty much everybody probably did that at some point, usually probably a hell of a lot younger than 14. But the simple fact of the matter is, those were his sisters. His sisters. I mean, what kind of a world do we live in now? Where that... I mean, it's not even the fact that it happened. It's the fact that the family did everything they could to hide it. Do you realize how bad this makes them look? Because this would have happened in the middle of their TV career. You heard it during the show. Been running for 15 years. Josh Duggar's only 22, I think. Maybe 27? Thinking 22. Maybe older. But either way, this likely occurred during the middle of their TV show run. So, was this to truly protect the child? Who they thought was, I mean, I get it. He's 14 years old. Doesn't understand consequences yet. I understand all of that. What I don't understand is the family burying it. I mean, for God's sake, I don't remember if it played in the clip that I put together, because I think I may have cut that part out. But they talked to a state trooper a year after he confessed. A state trooper who happened to be a friend of theirs. who's now serving over 50 some odd years in prison for child pornography. I mean, this is my point. We have, on one extreme, the Westboro Baptist Church, who basically are a bunch of thugs and brutes and stupid people who think that God doesn't like anybody but them. And then we have the folks way over here on the other side of the extreme, who are Christians outwardly, but they lie repeatedly. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to sit in judgment of anyone, because I'll be the first one to tell you, I've lied. I've lied a lot. I've lied to friends. I've lied to family. I understand that. But there comes a time when you gotta give it up. And this is my problem. They've been caught. They've been caught dead to rights. Covering things up. Hiding facts from the public. Hiding facts from the police. They say it was to protect their son. But again, this all occurred during the middle of their TV run. You can't tell me that they weren't making bank off of that TV show. Now, that being said, again, what Josh Duggar did, I think that's his name, yeah. Anyway, sorry. What he did was inexcusable. But I also do understand the fact that it was children. He was a child. It was with other children. I understand the need to protect them because, you know, you're wondering, did he fully understand what it was that he was doing? I don't blame him. He was a child. I blame the parents. I blame the parents for multiple reasons. The father is still trying to make justifications now that the whole world knows. That's a problem for me. He's made statements about how the contact happened above clothing, except for the few times that it didn't happen above clothing. That he was a child and didn't know any better. I might be able to concede partially the last bit. But, and maybe I could see coming to his defense the first time. Saying, hey, you know, this happened, but how many times did this happen? When were they going to say, okay, enough's enough. We've done this. We've gone over this. You're still doing it. We don't have a choice anymore. Because at some point, you have to put the welfare of the rest of your community above the welfare of your son. Especially when you're talking about your own daughters, for God's sake. There should have come a time when the parents should have said, look, okay, we're going to get you help. We're going to shut down the show. We're going to try to compartmentalize it as much as we can. And we're going to get you some help. But they didn't do that. They buried it. In the hopes that it would never come out, they buried it. And they kept running their show. And they kept presenting this front where they were this great, wholesome family with all these family values. And they had this big, deep, dark secret that a lot of folks knew, because this didn't even start breaking until Oprah had asked the Duggar family to come on their show. She was contacted by several folks who said, if you do that, you are going to be embarrassed. And that is when a true investigation started into all of this mess. And that's been several years ago. So again, I don't blame Josh Duggar. I think he has a problem. I think he needs help for that problem. He was a child when these events occurred. I blame the parents. The parents at some point should have stood up and said, look, Josh, enough is enough is enough. We're going to get you help. Okay. I think I've talked about Caitlin and Westboro and the Duggars for about as long as my stomach can handle. So let's get into what should be, or you would think would be slightly better news. We got the new jobs report out the last few days. Let's give this a listen.
A country under the American system that graduates more people from college than all the rest of the world.
The U.S. economy added a healthy 280,000 jobs in May, but the unemployment rate ticked up to 5.5% from 5.4% in April. The government said the slight increase in the jobless rate was because hundreds of thousands more people began seeking jobs in May. Not all of them found work and so were counted as unemployed. Last month's strong job growth suggests that employers remained confident enough to keep hiring even after the economy shrank during the first 3 months of the year.
Why, even in the Depression, our wages bought more food, clothing, travel, and entertainment than the wages of any other people in the world.
All right, so jobless numbers are out, or job claims are out, or... yeah, well, actually, I guess both. Job claims and growth numbers are out. And apparently, the economy has bolstered by 280-some-odd thousand jobs. While, oddly enough, the unemployment rate ticked up by 0.1%. Sounds great on paper, but let's not forget. Who have they stopped counting? We used to just say, hey, you don't have a job and you're above a certain age, you're considered unemployed. So yeah, you're going on this number sheet right here. But yeah, after so many months of you being unemployed, they just go, hey, you're actively not really looking for employment anymore, are you? So we're not going to count you as unemployed anymore. I'm not sure what they count you as anymore because you are not employed. So therefore, by definition, you should be unemployed. I don't think couch potato counts as a profession. Okay, but, so, hey, props, 280,000 jobs, sounds great. Anybody tell you whether they were part-time, full-time? Kind of a mix. Apparently, the average wage of the American worker has actually ticked up a little bit as well. I'm sure that probably has something to do with that mandatory minimum wage hike that's killing Seattle and a few other places. But hey, good policies, best of intentions, everything's going to work out. Not. I mean, that's what we're led to believe, right? That was another thing that Rod and I talked about today, was the whole Affordable Care Act. And I basically laid out to him my exact thoughts on the Affordable Care Act. I'm telling you right now, it's to get us to single payer. It was the first step. Even folks that are in the Democratic Party admitted openly that they wanted us to have a more of a socialized medical system. But if we just went straight to there, too many of the American people would protest, and it would never happen. This is the framework, the Affordable Care Act. If you think that all the turmoil and the craziness it's causing with premiums and insurance companies and everything else was some sort of a random accident, you're not paying attention. Barack Obama specifically told groups behind closed doors, after he told everybody that he wasn't a supporter of single payer, that he was a supporter of single payer. This is their goal. This is their intention, is to get us to a single payer system. Now, I have to tell you that up until about 2 days ago, I was fully on board with Scott Walker in the event that he ever made his declaration. However, I'm back to undecided, because I keep seeing all these reports surfacing about how Scott Walker feels that we need to completely reinstate the entirety of the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is a monster. It's a monstrosity. It never should have been created. It's like Frankenstein's monster, and it needs to be put out of its misery. So a president that claims to be a conservative who says, oh, look, Patriot Act, it's good. No. I do, however, have one slight ray of sunshine from a place I didn't expect, which is Governor Rick Perry. Now, I know a lot of the folks over here on Talk have been talking about him over the last couple of days, so I found a little bit of a different part of the speech But I want to play that as we start to wind down the show.
As I stood in the midst of those heroes, that they look upon us in silent judgment, and that we must ask ourselves, are we worthy of their sacrifice? The truth is, we're at the end of an era of failed leadership. We have been led by a divider who has sliced and diced the electorate, pitting American against American for political purposes. 6 years into this so-called recovery, and I might add our economy is barely growing. This winter, it actually got smaller. Our economic slowdown is not inevitable. It just happens to be the direct result of bad economic policy. The president's tax and regulatory policies have slammed the door shut of opportunity for the average American who's trying to climb the economic ladder, resigning the middle class to stagnant wages, to personal debt, to deferred dreams. Weakness at home has led to weakness abroad. The world has descended into a chaos of this president's own making. While his White House loyalists, they construct an alternative universe where ISIS is contained, that Ramadi is merely a setback, where the nature of the enemy can't be acknowledged for fear of causing offense, where the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, the Islamic Republic of Iran, can be trusted to live up to a nuclear agreement. No decision has done more harm than the president's withdrawal of American troops from Iraq. Let no one be mistaken. Leaders of both parties have made grave mistakes in Iraq. But in January of 2009, when Barack Obama became commander-in-chief, Iraq had been largely pacified. America had won the war, but our president failed to secure the peace. How callous it seems now, as cities once secured with American blood are now being taken by America's enemies, all because of a campaign slogan.
All right, so that was Governor Rick Perry in the speech that he gave the other night when he actually declared his candidacy. Some very interesting points there, I think, and sadly because of time I actually did cut out part of that, which I honestly kind of now wish I would have left in, where he was talking about all of the soldiers that have died in foreign wars, and I think it was in a very particular country, but anyway, he pointed out that all of their headstones face to the west, so that they could be looking in the general direction of the home that they fought, bled, and ultimately died for, and that now we have to prove to them that we were worth their sacrifice. We have sadly failed and sorely failed in that for the past several years. And that's just my honest opinion. We have not held up our end of the deal. These folks are fighting, bleeding, and dying to keep us safe at home, and we are safe and ensconced in our little world, and all we're doing is paying our bills, keeping up with the Joneses, and the world's going to hell. If you don't know the world is going to hell, obviously you haven't been paying attention to the last hour of this program, because we have basically gone over every fringe movement there is. You have the Westboro folks on one side, you got the Duggars on the other, and you got Caitlyn Jenner smack dab in the middle with a whole group of folks just like her that ultimately, I think, have a bigger problem than anybody wants to realize. Again, I'm not sitting in judgment of anybody on this program today except for Josh Duggar's parents. That's the God's honest truth. If anybody is responsible for that mess that went on there, it's his parents. Now, as far as the Westboro folks, I'm not sitting in judgment of them because I'm not allowed to. But I will tell you that, again, it makes me ashamed to call myself a Baptist. All right, well, that is going to bring this particular episode of America Off the Rails to a close. We don't have anything else scheduled as far as anybody that usually, like the live stuff. But I do think I have something that I think you guys are going to like for the remainder of the evening, and I'll get it queued up here in just a little bit. We're going to do basically a 5-hour block of our newest programming. We're going to start with JD and Stacy. We're going to go into Red Nation Rising. Then we'll go back to probably According to Me. And then, let's see, that's already 4. So, got to figure out who that 5th one's going to be. But we'll figure it out. And I'll get that up for you guys here in just a couple minutes. So, don't go anywhere. Friday evening, got nothing else going on. Hang out with K98 Talk. Maybe you'll catch some of the shows you've missed throughout the week. This is Rick Robinson. I'm the host of America Off the Rails. And we will be back with you tomorrow, bright and early, for Finding Common Ground, right here on K98 Talk. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't go anywhere. Come back with us tomorrow. Do it. Do it. You know you want to do it. Anyway, this is Rick Robinson, folks. Have a good night.
Everything you earn by breaking your backs, we're gonna redistribute when we make our pay tax. Hey, sit back down.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.
And I know this is the part where I normally stop talking, but I just realized I haven't done something in the last few episodes, and I keep telling myself I'm going to do it each time I go into break when I come out of break. Want to give a big, great big, humongous, huge shout out to the Dirty Uncles. If you've never heard them before, you listen to them every time you hear the show. They are the ones that have put together that song in its entirety that you can check out on their SoundCloud page. So feel free to go look them up and listen to it over and over and over again, because it's a really great song. And thanks to you guys for letting me make it my intro and my bumpers and my outro. You guys rock. Keep doing what you do. Alright, with that, I am officially out, and I know it's weird that I talk after the game over part, but I just wanted to make sure I did that this time, because I always forget lately. You guys, all of you, take care. Thanks for tuning in with us. We'll be back with you soon.